Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of a long story, but basically, I am slowly turning into Dracula. Yeah, yeah. This is not the first time it's happened, I'm sure. Oh yeah, like three-quarters of a year ago, there was a whole thing with Santa Claus, and then earlier this year, yeah, yeah. That's right, the Easter Bunny. You you watched the channel? Oh, that's awesome. You've subscribed and hit the bell. Ah, thank you so much. That is wonderful. Hit the button right now. Yeah. So yeah, you know what's going on then. Yeah. Well, so far I've got the red medallion thing is going on. I'm pretty sure the white gloves are going to show up soon. They always show up, and I'm already like feeling like I'm not allowed to enter a room unless somebody invites me in, that sort of thing. Yeah, yeah. So I was thinking, yeah, that is why I called you, actually. I was wondering if it's possible to get a tour of the blood bank. Hello? 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 Gerard James Butler was born in Paisley, Renfrewshire, Scotland in 1969. His father, Edward, worked as a bookmaker, and when Gerard was only 6 months old, the entire family moved to Montreal, Quebec. The move was short-lived, however, as Gerard's parents would divorce a year later, and his mother would bring him back to Scotland. Gerard wouldn't see his father again until he was 16 years old, and he would recall in an interview that he cried for hours after they met in a Glasgow restaurant, saying, "That emotion showed me how much pain can sit in this body of yours." As a teenager, Gerard had attended the Scottish Youth Theatre and was head boy at St. Mirren's and St. Margaret's High School. He would go on to study at the University of Glasgow School of Law. Following the death of his father from cancer when Gerard was only 22, he fell into a deep depression. He spent the year before his graduation on a leave of absence in California, where he says he lost control, drinking heavily and getting arrested for disorderly conduct. But at the end of the year, he returned to Glasgow, where he concluded his studies and graduated, taking a position as a trainee lawyer in Edinburgh. However, his drinking problem grew worse, and he would frequently miss work, which led to his being fired 1 week before he was supposed to be qualified as a lawyer. Cast adrift, Butler moved to London with a fairly vague goal in mind of get famous. He wouldn't pick up a professional acting gig until he was 27, when he would be cast in Stephen Burkoff's Coriolanus. He would follow this up performing on stage in Trainspotting at the Edinburgh Festival, and at the age of 30, he moved across the ocean to America to pursue his film career. Gerard Butler has a career punctuated by parts that many have considered to be breakout roles, but arguably the one that finally took and established him as a star in Hollywood was as Leonidas in 2006's 300. In October of 2011, Butler was rushed to Stanford University Medical Center after he was pulled under by waves while surfing. In February of 2012, it was announced that he had completed a course of treatment for substance abuse at a rehabilitation facility after he had become worried that he was dependent on the painkillers he was prescribed after his surfing accident. Today, Butler says that he is clean and sober.
Hey, can I get you some coffee or something?
I don't drink coffee.
Why don't you make yourself comfortable? I'll be right back down.
So you haven't told me your name.
I have many.
As the year 2000 was approaching, Jules Soisson was largely known for his work as a film producer. The graduate of University of Southern California's Film Studies program had worked in varying production roles on Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, Fist of the North Star, and Trekkies, just to name a few. He was a prolific filmmaker. He had started writing screenplays with 1983's Hambone and Hilly, but 2000 was a banner year as he saw 3 of his scripts get produced and released: The Prophecy 3, Highlander Endgame, and Dracula 2000. Although he may not have been that pleased about Dracula 2000, according to script doctor Scott Derrickson, he was called in by Harvey Weinstein and hired to completely rewrite the script. Weinstein told Derrickson that he had only bought the script because he liked the title, and that the screenplay itself sucked and needed to be rewritten. Derrickson would rewrite the script, and Weinstein would reject his rewrites and bring in Aaron Kruger and Paul Harris Boardman, but none of the 3 would actually receive a credit on the finished film. The finished product sees Dracula awakened from a long slumber after a band of thieves, led by Omar Epps as Marcus, breaks into Abraham Van Helsing's vault to steal Dracula's coffin, believing it to be filled with valuable artifacts. Van Helsing, played by Christopher Plummer, has been keeping Dracula prisoner in the vault and using leeches to siphon off the vampire's blood, extending his own life. Awakened into a new and strange world, Dracula learns that Van Helsing has a daughter named Mary and sets out to New Orleans to track her down. It's a flashy action-horror hybrid featuring vampires flying through the air on wires, a stake-launching crossbow, Jerry Ryan and Vitamin C in tight-fitting dresses, and a soundtrack featuring Power Man 5000, Linkin Park, and System of a Down. Remember, this film was made and released just 2 years after the first Blade movie had become an unexpected box office phenomenon. Vampire action horror was red hot.
Dignity, Doctor.
Gerard Butler plays probably the slinkiest Dracula committed to film. Surrounded by comic relief provided by Omar Epps and by Johnny Lee Miller as the young vampire hunter Simon Shepard, Dracula is a center of calm. Sexy calm, just smoldering away, determined to live up to the film's tagline, which refers to him as the most seductive evil of all time. Sure, he's brutal and violent, but he's also ripped and has long curly hair and eyes that glisten, that is, when they're not horribly bloodshot. And he's given perhaps the most tortured and tormented backstory a Dracula can have. One that's such an interesting twist on the Dracula legend that I actually don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen the film yet. Dracula 2000, which was promoted under the title Wes Craven Presents Dracula 2000, because Craven was attached as an executive producer, completely failed to set the box office ablaze. In a bad year for Miramax, the same year that they released one of Kevin Smith's favorite punchlines, Reindeer Games, Dracula 2000 opened at number 7 at the box office. It would go on to gross roughly $33 million domestically and $14 million overseas. Not a bad haul for a low-budget horror movie, but Dracula 2000 had been made on a $54 million budget. The total worldwide box office left it $7 million short of making back its budget, and again, the numbers for the budget rarely include money that winds up being spent on promotion. Critics in general did not care for the movie, and today it has a rating of 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. Ultimately, Dracula 2000 was saved by home video. Its initial release to home video grossed almost as much as its worldwide box office, And the film continues to be a strong seller to this day. It turns out it may not have been a great find a parking space and buy a ticket movie, but it's a pretty decent pop some popcorn and sit on the couch movie. The strength of the home video release led to 2 direct-to-video sequels, Ascension and Legacy. Both films reunited the original film's director and the producer-creator, Patrick Lussier and Joel Soisson, but Gerard Butler returns for neither. Instead, the sequel stars Stephen Billington as Dracula and Jason Scott Lee as Father Uffizi. And I've got to say, have you watched Doogie Kamealoha? Because Jason Scott Lee is all kinds of charismatic and just completely phenomenal and charming in that show. It's kind of weird to think of it now, but there really was a boom in vampire action movies in the late 90s and early 2000s. Of course, there was Blade and Dracula 2000. This was also the era of Underworld and John Carpenter's Vampires, not to mention From Dusk Till Dawn. But if you ask me, my personal favorite out of all the vampire action flicks of the era has to be 2003's Chin Gai Bin, released in the USA under the titles The Twins Effect or The Vampire Effect. Starring the C-pop duo The Twins, the movie features a pair of slapstick-happy vampire hunters tracking down vampires with the aid of a power elixir, and Jackie Chan has a fairly large guest role as a hapless paramedic who keeps winding up in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was truly a renaissance time for vampire action movies. What do you think about vampire action or about Gerard Butler's performance in this particular installment in the vampire action genre? Drop down into the comments and let me know. That's what the comments are there for. There's also plenty of other buttons down there, like and subscribe, the bell that you ring in order to get notifications if you haven't already rung it for this channel. There's also a share button if you happen to know someone who might enjoy this video. Go ahead and share it to their Facebook page. Share it to your Facebook page. Share it to your Twitter. Sharing is caring. Until next time, I am Glenn Williams, the film optimist, reminding you to watch like it means something.